And welcome back to the Texas Longhorn Football Channel. I am your host for this 40-acre dash, Anwar Richardson. Before we get too far into this video, that of course we're going to talk about Arch Manning, do me a couple of things. Hit like on GP. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to that. And do me one more favor. If you've done all those two things so far, share it with your friends. Stop sharing political posts. Share some stuff that people actually want to talk about and hear about, right? And it's always going to be your Longhorns. And of course, it's always going to be Arch Manning. And welcome to the 40-acre dash, where I'm just going to give you news and analysis in a shorter form than what we normally do on this channel, hence the name 40-acre dash. If you may or may not be aware of, I reported on Thursday night that Arch Manning, the five-star out of Louisiana, who already knows a Texas commit, has decided to early enroll in the University of Texas. And on the surface, you say, well, that's okay. Like, what's so big about that? We're going to get into why this is kind of a big deal and why we should be talking about it right now. Let me go back as to how this whole thing comes about. As you say to yourself, he's a quarterback. Of course, he's going to early enroll. However, this is what the thought process was, and things what I've been reporting and people have been telling me for weeks and months prior to. Arch Manning for a while was kind of on the fence as to if he wanted to early enroll or not. He played on the basketball team last year. They won a state championship. I'm not saying he was the star of the team, but there was some thought process of him coming back and competing for a state championship once again. Also the thought process of, hey, if he's probably going to redshirt either way because Quinn Ewers is there, so he'll probably redshirt to 2023. So what's the rush? Just go ahead and live your life, be a kid, go to, all the events, go to the prom, go to, spring break, like all those kind of things. That's what was kind of on the table for the longest period of time. And then as the football season started going along, and of course, Arch is having conversations with Steve Sarkisian, and of course, they're developing that bond. What I was told that really kind of sealed the deal, I reported this the other week on Orange Bloods, and if you're not a subscriber, this is the reason why it helps to subscribe. But one of the things that I reported was that after Arch had taken the visit where Texas played Iowa State, and of course they won, he just wanted to be here. He wanted to be a Longhorn. He wanted to be in Austin. And it was at that point where you kind of knew that that was going to be the thing that tipped him over. Not just the game itself, not just the win itself, but just being around Sark, being around the team, being around the coaches. It felt like home for Arch. And so at that point, he says, you know what? Why wait? I'm ready to do this. I'm excited about this thing. I'm going to finish out my senior year in high school, and I'm going to early enroll in Texas. And so hence, that's why I learned last week, or actually this week, that Arch has decided he's going to early enroll and be here in January. Now, what this does for the quarterback room, it's going to make it really interesting, right? It's good from the positive aspects of it. You go into next season, in January, essentially. So let's say the off season as opposed to next season. The off season, on paper, you have Arch Manning, you have Quinn Ewers, you have Malik Murphy. Hudson Card should still be working on his diploma. So you have a quarterback room that is stacked, a quarterback room that would have 2 5-stars, a high 4-star with Malik Murphy. And of course, Hudson Card's still there in however long he's going to be here. So that looks great. You always want to have a strong quarterback room, right? That's the goal, to be able to build it up. It's the kind of thing that Texas has needed for a while. It's the thing that Tom Herman tried to do as best as he could. But, with attrition, it was a little bit hard to do. But when you start thinking about what the quarterback situation looked like before Sam Ehlinger got here, right? Before Sam Ehlinger was able to stabilize that room, you guys know it was some lean years, wasn't it? It was some dark years. It was a lot of struggle bus that was going on. But all of a sudden, Sam was able to get there. And now you see that Sarkisian is taken up to another level because he's getting the high elite guys to commit. But now here becomes the question, and what we'll have to see and follow going forward, because now there becomes a domino effect as to what happens with everyone else who's here. Let's start with Quinn Ewers, okay? Quinn Ewers now enters in knowing that he's got 4 games left. And what does this mean for him? Because Arch Manning is clearly coming with the thought process that I'm going to compete for QB1 in 2023. If he decides that he's going to come in the summer of 2023, then we know clearly He's just coming to, to be the backup quarterback, kind of enjoy himself, and then kind of compete in 2024. But we know by him entering or being at the University of Texas in 2023 that we know he's going to be competing for the starting position. So what does that mean for a guy like Quinn Ewers? I would say this. Texas got 4 games left. When they come off this bye, they've got Kansas State on the road, then there's TCU at home, then there's Kansas on the road, and then there's Baylor. To me, what Quinn Ewers has to do is he's got to slam the door on any possibility of giving up QB1 and letting everyone know this is my job going into 2023. I think he's got to have some good performances, some strong performances. I'm not saying he needs to be earth, moon, and stars, but he's got to be able to go into the offseason with that Steve Sarkisian seal of approval. You guys remember last season when towards the end of last year, when it was Hudson Card and Casey Thompson and Sarkisian was kind of asked about those guys going into, towards the end of that season, and he didn't really endorse either one. Remember, he started talking about the need for better QB play. Never really talked about Casey Thompson's injury, and he talked about how they needed more out of that position. He didn't say, that's my guy. The same way you would say that about Bijan Robinson, the same way you would say that about Xavier Worthy or DeMarvion Overshown. He was hesitant to do that. And of course, we see the attrition that happened with Casey Thompson that left. Hudson Card gets, was battling, but of course, Quinn Ewers eventually takes over. What Quinn has to do over the next 4 games is make sure he shuts the door. Hey, young man. Hey, Arch, I know you want to come in and take my position. I know you want to be QB1, but let's be clear. Mullet Mania is still here. We'll get to Manning Mania, but Mullet Mania is still the guy. That's what he has to be able to do. And this is going to be one of the first times, obviously, this will be interesting that Quinn Ewers probably feels a little bit of pressure, because he hasn't really had to look over his shoulder. But now he will have that guy. Like, he was the guy, right? He was the guy looking over everyone else's shoulder. And he was the guy that everyone was talking about, hey, he's going to come in and replace and be the next. Now, all of a sudden, it's kind of a role reversal. Now, all of a sudden, people are going to be talking about Arch. Anytime Quinn makes a mistake, they're going to talk about Arch, because the most popular quarterback on any team is usually the backup quarterback. So the pressure becomes on Quinn. Now, we'll see what happens. I believe he can handle it. You guys know I'm very bullish on Quinn and what I believe his abilities are. But when we talk about what Quinn needs to do over the next 4 games, he needs to clearly cement himself as QB1 heading into the offseason. What does this mean for a guy like Malik Murphy? Ooh, God, there is a tough one, right? Because if you're Malik Murphy, you already know you're behind Quinn Ewers. What if Quinn Ewers solidifies himself as QB1, which, by the way, if you're Sark and you're smart, you never probably give that up, right? You never tell it. But if Malik Murphy goes into this thing feeling like, man, Quinn is QB1, they've got Arch coming in, he's clearly going to be QB2. What does this even mean for me? He's a guy that you got to keep an eye on. He's a guy that you would like to say in the ideal world, well, he's at the University of Texas. Why would he want to leave? But you guys got to understand that today's athletes are totally different. The transfer portal has pretty much eliminated loyalty. Even if you grew up loving a school, it has eliminated the loyalty aspect as far as why I need to stay. And so if guys feel like, hey, I don't have the opportunity to start, or I may just be buried on the depth chart here, then you say to yourself, all right, I got to examine my options, hence the transfer portal. So what does this mean for a guy like Malik Murphy? We'll know. I think we'll know very, very quickly if he's going to be a guy that says, I'm going to stay around, I'm going to battle. I feel like I'll be QB1 in 2023. I'm not worried about it. Or do he says, you know what? I feel like the odds are stacked against me. I'm going to go somewhere else. But Malik Murphy's a guy that got to keep an eye on, because he's an X factor in this whole thing. What does it mean for a person like Hudson Card? Well, if you're Hudson Card, I think we always kind of believe that Hudson's going to leave at some point next year, get his degree, get his diploma. So I don't know if there's a huge effect on Hudson Card, because I think we all kind of check that box like, hey, he's done what he's needed to do, but he really wants to get this diploma from the University of Texas, get out of the Macomb School with that prestigious degree, and be able to not only go play football somewhere else, but set himself up for life because he's got that degree from University of Texas. So, but here's the thing, and this is where the management of egos in the quarterback room. And this is where Sarkisian is going to have to work his magic and have to work his wonder, because what you don't want to do is go into 2023 and you lost Hudson Card. You've also lost Malik Murphy, and now you've got your two guys, right? You've got Quinn, and you've got Arch, and you got Charles Wright, who's still around. And I don't know if that's enough. Now, it may have to be. And again, this may be the thing that we have to deal with as we follow the University of Texas, dealing with elite quarterbacks, right? And having so many quarterbacks, which, by the way, is a first world problem. It is a first world problem. It's a first world problem to feel like you're so set at quarterback at Ohio State that you can let Joe Burrow go to like LSU because that's how good you are, right? These are first world problems. So don't look at this out of a negative prism that says, oh my God, these guys leave. What the heck happens to us? You've got to look at it and say, no, this is what happens when you start stacking elite talent in the room. You may have some attrition, and some guys may go on and do great at other programs, but you still got to stack it because you can't get into a deficit in the quarterback room, because we've seen what happens when you don't have enough quality quarterbacks. If your guy gets injured and you don't have somebody else that can come in and be the person that moves the ball, moves the chains, and can hold it down. If you don't have a Caleb Williams kind of, using that as an example, coming off the bench, you're going to be in trouble. You need somebody that says, when Spencer Rattler can't get the job done, I've got Caleb Williams in the bullpen, and we'll just go ahead and close it out. So understand, like, it's okay if this happens. It's okay if this occurs, but you also got to know, so from a Sarkisian standpoint, got to somehow find a way to manage the egos. But if these guys leave, then he's also got to find a way to make sure he's got more replacements coming in, whether it's through the transfer portal, whether it's through recruiting. He's still got to keep that pipeline going so you never just fall off a cliff. And that's going to be important going forward. So, look, we'll keep an eye on this thing. For now, though, it's good to know that Manning Mania will be descending upon Austin in January of 2023. Is going to be some exciting times. And speaking of exciting times, stay here on the Texas Longhorn Football Channel for all the news, analysis, content that you can hope for. Until we speak again, it's your main man, Anwar Richardson, for the 40 Acre Dash. You guys take care.